You have questions? We have answers. Welcome to the Therapist Question Box with your host, Miss Lindsay Schiss.
Welcome back to another episode of the Therapist Question Box. We are here to answer your tough questions, so ask away. Your questions is what makes this podcast happen. And we appreciate you asking the honest, vulnerable questions so we can talk to our experts and explore them with you. Today I have with me Lindsay, help me say your last name. Atalifo. I knew I was going to slaughter it, so
that's fair.
You've got a tough last name, I do too, so we're in it together. Discussing what happens after you leave a toxic relationship. And here is the question from our listener. It's really just that. When you escape a toxic relationship, what are the main things you need to work on? So, tell me first of all, when you hear that question, what are your thoughts on that?
Like my immediate response already is this person's being really hard on themselves.
Why?
Because they have this, what do I need to work on? And so that's like, so I've escaped this toxic relationship. What do I need to work on now? And it's like that almost gives it an immediate, I've done something wrong and I need to fix it.
I'm broken.
Yeah. I need to come out of this. And so I think my first response to that is like compassion and grace.
Yeah.
Like to give yourself that, this is just, it's a life experience.
Yes.
Like something happened, and to give yourself even more grace because you recognized it.
Yes.
And you recognize there's something there.
Isn't that true? And maybe just like pump the brakes.
Yeah.
Like pump the brakes before it's like, all right, how do I get to work?
Yeah.
I've been beaten and bloodied on the battlefield. It's like, wait, you probably need to tend to that wound.
Yeah.
Like just take a minute, take a beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that. I think it's interesting that we immediately go sometimes to like, what can I do? How do I get better? I mean, how many times do you have clients in your office that are like, I have this. All right. How long is it going to take me to work on it? When can we get done?
Yeah.
It's hard to sit in the pain of what's going on and to like dress those wounds. It's hard. Yeah.
Well, and it sounds like this person has a lot of self-awareness.
Yeah.
Right? But sometimes that becomes really difficult to manage because you're so aware and so self-aware of what's happening with you and around you that you start to internalize it. Like, I've done something and I need to fix it.
Yes.
How long is it going to take to fix it?
Yes.
And what needs to happen now? Instead of like, I've really dealt with something hard and it's time for me to just breathe through it.
Yes.
And just let the feelings come as they come. And I don't know, just to sit through it. I mean, already that's, I'm sure, I hear that and it's not something I want to do either.
No.
It's just sit in those feelings. But
I appreciate hearing that because I think, we don't want to sit in those feelings. They're uncomfortable. They're like, we want to work through it and get on the other side of it. But being in that messy middle of now the relationship's over and now I just need to sit in this discomfort and it's yucky. It's hard.
I mean, that's how we get better at something, right? Is practice. And so practicing sitting in it is like when people ask you, how do I get through this? And how do I fix this? It's like hard to use those terms because I usually shut those down, right? Like,
right.
How do I fix me? And, but the experience that comes with something happened and something, I'm recognizing something went awry.
Yeah.
Is this, okay, I'm having an experience. I need to sit in this experience, and that's how we get through it.
What does sitting in it look like? When you say that, like, how would you describe to somebody, what is sitting in it and not trying to rush to the fix? What does that look like?
I mean, with my kids in particular, I use a scale of 1 to 10, right? And so I use this, like 1, being neutral and 10 being the highest stress, anxiety, or intensity of the emotion. Like, where is it sitting? And if you're at a 3 or a 4, you can decide as you go through this how much you can do at each number. And so that's something, I mean, I work through with my kids. I do that with my clients. But I also have, this, like, you have to ride the wave. And so riding the wave is, the wave comes in and it starts to build up and you can feel it. And a lot of people try to cut the wave off and go, I know it needs to happen. And then they cut it. But what happens when you cut that wave is that you get dragged into the current again.
Yes.
And then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes.
So you have to let it crash. I guess letting it crash is, I think most people know what that feels like, what it looks like. we just don't like to do it.
I was just going to say, we're afraid of the crash.
Yeah.
It feels scary. It feels super vulnerable, and we want to avoid that.
Yeah.
Why is it important to not avoid that?
You know, I think that comes from having this, experience again. You know, it's by living through it and feeling the crash of that experience, you can anticipate it. If it starts to happen again, you already recognize, you know, what's happening, where it's coming from, maybe what's about to happen. And then at that point, it's, you know what? I think I remember this feeling. This feels like a really toxic relationship, and I don't want to get more invested into it. And so by sitting in it and by feeling it, by letting it crash, you have all that life experience that now helps you on the next one.
I love that. Instead of jumping right into the next one, but really learning from it, right?
Yeah.
What are we if we're not learning from the hard things? I always say that, like, I don't believe hard things just happen to us, but I believe we have hard things happen to us so we can come out the other side with greater understanding, greater compassion, greater appreciation.
Yeah.
You know, we don't just go through the hard things to go through them. I mean, we can, but why not? Why not come out the other side and have some learning in our belt, right? Some more notches of like life and understanding. I mean, I think that's what creates our human experience.
Yeah.
And sometimes we want to just skip to the learning, but we have to go through that messiness to get to that other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that we develop this greater understanding and greater compassion.
Yeah.
But we don't have that for ourselves. We just have it for the experience. And I think that's where we go, okay, well, I just need to be better.
Yeah.
I just need to notice this quicker. I just need to do this better. And I think it's so difficult to get away from that. Because especially having that high self-awareness, you go, you know, I made this step, or I made this choice and it got me into this. But you didn't know.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting how high self-awareness is such a great thing, but it also like can be challenging as well.
Yeah.
Like, and you can look at it and blame yourself for being in this relationship. Or I also think the worry of like, oh, look what I did before. How am I not going to do it again? I mean, I think the ability to trust self after a toxic relationship has ended is really challenging.
Yeah.
So what does that look like, would you say, is how do I trust myself if there's been a toxic situation, a toxic relationship again? What does that look like?
I think it starts with just trying to take care of yourself, right? And so you start taking the step. I mean, depending on the situation, right? Like almost any therapist office, if you go in there and you have like a domestic violence type situation, then any therapist office is going to give you some resources. Yeah. And so you either go to your therapist that you're seeing. If you don't have one and you don't see somebody, I mean, Google it, right? Any therapist office would be happy to give you some resources for that. And I think that's already a first step. Yeah. Is I need some resources for this, or I need to look into talking to someone about what's been going on with me. I think besides that, there's this, I mean, I know we say you can't go back, right? You can't go back to who you were before. And a lot of people have that, like, I just want to go back to who I was. But kind of in the same realm is usually you get very alienated from your friends or your family in a toxic relationship. And I'd say go back in that sense. Go reconnect with people that you may have disconnected from in this. And I think that's really hard, right?
Totally. And often you disconnect because it is unhealthy and you feel embarrassed or ashamed or afraid of maybe judgment or whatever. And so reconnecting is hard because you're coming with your head down going, man, you said it, maybe your friends or mom and dad said this wasn't good for you. This person wasn't good for you. Yeah. Turns out they were right. Right. Or they saw you disconnecting and saw that there was a problem and wondered and you shut down. I mean, there's a lot of pain that comes along with the reconnection. Yeah. Even though you know it's the right thing and you probably long for that. It's hard.
Yeah, I think there's a lot in there too with your self-worth. Yes. Right? And you have to battle that. And so even with this, like the different steps to come out of it, what do you work on? You know, it's doing that for yourself. And so even if you don't quite feel that self-worth coming back yet, But I mean, by doing that and by taking those steps and reconnecting and trying to keep yourself safe,
yes,
that's going to start to build it back up.
I love that. And that's where self-trust comes in, right? Yeah. Because when you're in a toxic relationship, right, that self-trust starts to go, wait a minute, what's real, what's not? Can I trust myself? Can I not? What is, why did I choose this person in the first place? Why am I allowing this to happen? I think your sense of safety of self changes. And so we're looking to rebuild that self-trust.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it starts slowly. I mean, that's what I keep hearing and feeling from you. Like, slow down. Mm-hmm. There is a lot that has gone on when there's a toxic relationship, right? Whether it's emotional, physical abuse, whatever it is, but that it was not good for you in some way or another. But just to slow down.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really appreciate that. So again, building self-worth. Like, let's talk about that. Self-worth and self-trust a little different. How do we build that back again and know that, you're a person worth loving, worth being in relationship with, worth connecting? What does that look like?
I think it looks different for everybody, in that the way that we build that. And like you had mentioned before, it starts slow. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we don't even recognize that it's happening. Yeah. It's kind of like, taking these different steps that are difficult, like going to the gym, right? Mm-hmm. Or eating better, or doing something to take care of your body. You're taking care of your mental health. Mm-hmm. So physical health and mental health. And it's hard. It's hard to get there and to, pack the bag to go to the gym or to get the different groceries that you need to get to start. But by doing just one of those things, starting with one thing, your whole system starts to shift. Mm-hmm. Like the whole system starts to go, okay, what's different? There's something different here.
Yes.
And it starts to feel better. And then with that consistency of just trying something that makes you feel better, that it's for you.
Yeah.
I think that starts to latch onto that. It's like, hey, this is good for me.
I think that's so good. I will talk to clients about that when they're looking to make some changes. And we'll, talk about exercise. So use that as an example. How many times you want to exercise, I'll ask them, and they'll give me 7 days a week. And I go, well, hold on, pump the brakes. Let's just get realistic here. What's realistic for you? And they'll kind of go, okay, maybe, if this is someone that hasn't worked out at all, right? They'll say maybe 4 or 5. Okay, let's try that. What are your goal? An hour a day. I'm like, okay, are you sure? Like, okay, let's just, and again, I'm not trying to push down their ideas, but I also want them to start learning to trust themselves. Yeah. You said you were going to do this. What does it look like? Right. And just being consistent. So I will say, okay, 4 days a week. Let's try 4 days a week. What's your goal? We'll get down to maybe, where are you going to start? Maybe 30 minutes. Okay. Sounds good. What if you get the flu one of these days? What if you have a horrible night's sleep? What are you going to do? No, I just won't do it. No, wait. How can you still show up for yourself? Mm-hmm. Can we make adjustments and say, okay, maybe it's not that 30 minutes, but maybe today's exercise is you're walking down the street to the mailbox. Yeah. And that's your exercise for a day when you wake up and don't feel well or have a bad night's rest. But you're honoring yourself and being consistent, right? Yeah. And giving some flexibility within that 4 days a week, 30 minutes a day. Mm-hmm. And I think that same principle applies. Like, oh, okay, if I start saying I'm going to do the thing, I start doing the thing and I show up for myself consistently. Yeah. And it doesn't need to look the same every day because we might have those days we wake up feeling like crap. Right. But we say, you know what, this is what I'm doing today in this effort because I said I'm going to do it and I'm going to trust myself that I'm going to do it. Yeah. That builds like, oh, I can trust myself. That builds self-worth, self-esteem, and self-trust. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I even have with this, I have, clients too that I want to do this, 7 days a week or twice a day or whatever it is, because they're just, I'm going to make this change and they're all, gung-ho about it. And so I have this, like, let's slow it down. Let's do a month, right? And so we have a whole month. And how much do you want to do this in a month? And so it gives them like more of a chance to get sick or something else. And what I'll have them do is have them tally mark. Oh, nice. And so they have a tally mark either on their mirror, on a journal, on a notebook somewhere in their phone, and that they tally mark every time that they did it. And at the end of the month, we'll go back and check it. And when we check it, we'll see how many times they showed up for themselves.
I love that.
Because usually by the end of the month, if they've got this, I'm going to do this 7 days a week and they pull this, it becomes this, I didn't do it. I did it 7 days the first week, and then the next week I only went once, and then the next week I only went like, I didn't even get all the way there, right? And then we have this, okay, so how about we just drive to the gym, and we just pack the bag and we put it by the door.
Yes.
And we create like smaller habits out of these big things that, I mean, people know the big things that'll make big changes, but we break those down into, I'm just going to pack the bag. And how many times did you pack the bag? I packed the bag all week, every week.
Mm-hmm.
I just never went to the gym, and then they get down, but you pack the bag every single day. Like every day you pack the bag, because that's something that is something they can do.
I love that. It's interesting because I think sometimes unless we get to that end goal, unless we actually make it to the gym, right? Or in this case, with this toxic relationship, it's like, unless I'm all the way better, unless I'm feeling better and out dating again, then I'm not healed. Nothing's going right. Yeah. But saying, wait a minute, you packed the bag. Wait a minute. You chose to show up for yourself. So that counts. Give yourself credit for that. Yeah. I think sometimes we only look at the outcome, right? We only look at the talk at the end of the day where we say, oh, this is what happened. Look at, I can tie a nice bow around this. But we don't look at the steps that it took to actually get the bow, cut the ribbon, figure out how to tie it right? We just look at the tied bow at the end. Yeah. But we got to say, wait a minute, there's so many steps that we can celebrate in between. Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. So when, I also want to talk about grief, because grief plays a part in this process. Yeah. This listener said they just left a toxic relationship. Probably grateful it's over, but I'm sure there's grief, and Absolutely. That can feel confusing. So can you talk on that a little bit?
Yeah, I would say almost immediately there's a couple different types of grief in this, right? There's grief of the relationship, which is really confusing, that you've lost this person that has been there, and then at the same time you already had lost and were already grieving in the relationship you thought you were going to have. Yeah. And so I think having both of these battling and I mean, it's so confusing and so difficult to have this, like, I thought that this was going to go here, and I thought that, somehow we were going to get to this point, and then to grieve that while you're also grieving, the person themselves. Yes. And to grieve the person that you were or are or thought you were going to be with this person. And so I think there's so much complex grief in this.
Absolutely. Not straightforward. Yeah. Right?
Not at all.
And you said something earlier. You said, a lot of people say, I want to go back to how I was. I want to go back to before. And you said that doesn't happen. No. Right? Is there grief in that too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's grieving that person that you were, but I think at the same time it's, you're grieving this person that you were, but you're also a whole different person, and to give yourself that respect that you lived through it.
Yes. Yeah. I think that makes so much sense, and is also challenging to say, that's not who I am anymore. I've learned things. I've gone through the fire, and it's been painful, and I came out the other side. And sometimes with that, there's a loss of innocence. Right? There's a loss of maybe what we, like you said, hope for. There's a loss for what we thought was going to be. But we come out the other side, and I think understanding that there's grief in that, but there's also celebration in that. Yeah. Like there's a beautiful, it's like that, the caterpillar coming out of that chrysalis, like that's a struggle, and it's hard and it's messy, but they come out the other side as a butterfly. But it doesn't just happen. You don't go from, caterpillar to butterfly. It has to go through a process, and that process is hard, and it takes time, and it evolves. Yeah. And understanding like grief and new beginnings can coexist together. I think sometimes it's like either I'm happy or I'm sad. I'm one or I'm the other. Instead of saying, actually, I can still have grief and I can still have beauty at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Both exist together. Yeah. So when you think, what do you wish every survivor of a toxic relationship knew about healing?
I think it takes time. It's going to be your own process, right? It's going to be, it's going to be a process for all the different aspects of this, the grief, the self-worth, the self-trust, and that what you do for yourself is going to help drop, little drops of water in that cup for you. And so by doing that, it just takes time. And I know sometimes, we see like, if I just go to the gym every single day, then things will be better. And that's why people make those goals, right? They're like, if I just go and I go for 3 hours a day, and I'll be a different person. But that, like you had said, that doesn't build trust, because it's not sustainable.
Right.
Like, you can't keep that up and keep going. And so by doing that and going, okay, what am I working on right now? Or what is it that I need more of? Do I need more compassion? Do I need more grace for the grief? Do I need somebody to help me through this? Do I need to talk to somebody?
Yes.
And starting to recognize and turn within, what is it that I need? Because that's not something that was ever addressed in that toxic relationship, is what your needs were.
Oh gosh. And getting back to that is so important. And probably like a muscle that needs to be strengthened.
Yeah.
Because it's been probably pushed aside for a really long time. Like needs in a toxic relationship. Well, wait a minute. We're just trying to manage the fire here that's going on. What are my needs? I don't even know my needs anymore. Right. So really going back to, wait a minute. And what I'm hearing is curiosity.
Yeah.
Like, instead of going, I shouldn't feel this way, or I should, or this is stupid, but just sitting in curiosity. This is interesting that I'm feeling this way, and allowing it and sitting in curiosity. That's what I'm hearing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what do you think are signs that that someone is moving forward? Like that they're it might feel like, oh, am I just going to be sitting in this messy discomfort forever? And what are signs that make you see like, oh no, you're making progress. You're moving in the right direction.
I think my first response to that is that they start to place boundaries. And that they start to place boundaries around their needs. And so I think that's almost immediately, if you can start to see in somebody that they say no, or that, I don't want to go out tonight just because simply I don't want to. Yeah. Then you can start to see like, okay, I totally respect that. And you can start to see them pulling through it a little bit. Yeah. So that's, I'd say my first response is that, is boundaries around your needs and with people that you don't feel like those needs are being seen.
Right. And, to me, that is a step towards learning what healthy love looks like, learning what a healthy relationship looks like. Like, your needs matter, but my needs matter too. Yeah. And not one has to compromise the other needs, but both can be held together. Right. And, I think sometimes after a toxic relationship, it's hard to understand what even healthy love or relationship looks like. But I love that idea of like boundaries are the first thing. When a person starts to honor their boundaries, then you start to go, okay, wait a minute. Like, they have some sense of self of what is going on for them, what their needs are, and honoring those needs. Good. Yeah. And would you say that would be like, when does a person know, okay, I'm okay enough to get back into a relationship? I'm not going to seek out that same kind of toxic relationship again. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that part is difficult because a relationship can happen at any time, right? Like, so that can show up. And I mean, it's because it's so different for everybody. Yeah. You kind of have to decide, like, do I need a boundary around not getting into a relationship right now? Is this a healthy enough person that I can express to them what happened? And have them help me through this and help me set my boundaries? Does this feel like a safe person? And to start to just trust, I guess, yourself in that. I think you have more recognition, and I'm going to say this to this person, I think you have more recognition for what is safe for you than you think you do.
Oh, that's so good. You have more recognition for what's safe than what you think you do. Why do you think that people, why do you think we struggle with knowing what we think is right for us? Right? Yeah. And why do you think that is? I can see after a toxic relationship, it's like, I made this choice. I chose this person, and look how damaging this was, But I think that can happen even outside of this. It's just self-trust and saying, no, I know what works for me, what is right for me. Why do you think that's hard?
I think, almost initially it's something that we've gone through in our childhood. We develop so many values and morals when we're so young, and figure out what we need or what we want or what we were missing. And I think that's something that we have, that inner child, and if we don't give it the attention it deserves, then it starts to seek it out. And so if we're not paying attention to what we need in the first place, right, like that inner child is going to pop out and go, I think I need this.
Yeah.
And that I think you even recognize, you'll even recognize that may or may not be safe.
Yeah.
It feels questionable, it feels a little off, but it also feels good, right? Because
and that's confusing.
For this kid. Yeah.
Yes. But when you're saying, if it feels questionable, it feels off, to maybe explore that a little bit.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. I remember reading a book, and it was years ago. It was called Protecting the Gift. And it was about, it's kind of crazy. I'm like, why did I read this? It was about kidnapping.
Okay.
And I know, why not? Fair. I mean, we all have our own interests.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because the book talked about all sorts of different types of abduction that had happened with children. And he said something at the end, and I have not forgotten it for over 20 plus years. He said, you've heard all these stories and you've heard all these situations. And if you remember one thing of this book, do not forget this, that every one of these situations, the person had a feeling that something was off, that something was not quite right. And most of the time they ignored that feeling because they didn't want to make a person feel bad. They didn't want to say the thing that, didn't want to create a boundary. But even, they talked about people that knew these people or a perfect stranger, that they had just a sense that something was wrong, but they typically ignored it. And so what I'm hearing you say is honor your intuition.
Yeah.
If you feel like something's off, then honor it, sit with it, explore it. Don't push it aside. It's there for a reason.
Yeah.
Right?
I think, honoring it, absolutely. And being there and exploring it and being curious about it and where is this coming from? But also giving grace if you did push it aside.
Yes.
Right? So if you did end up pushing it aside, there was a reason. There was something that was stronger in you, that you needed this or you wanted this, or it was hard to push away.
Yeah.
Or you didn't see it. And so you may have felt it. But if it's this, younger child in yourself, then it's hard to turn away a child, right? And so already that's already difficult. And so to give yourself this grace and compassion and respect that you did feel that. So a lot of people have that, yeah, I knew something was off, but I just went along with it. And it's, well, then give yourself some grace for that. Because you recognize that there was something off.
Yes. Instead of you didn't make the decision, right? We can spend so much time in that self-loathing and frustration. And look at me, why did I do this? And I knew something was wrong. I love that you just flipped the script and said, wait a minute, like actually give yourself credit that you did recognize something was off.
Yeah.
And you know what? And there was a greater need there. For some reason, that child needed something, needed love, needed connection. And so they sought it out in someone that wasn't helpful.
Yeah.
But give yourself some grace.
Or you just didn't know how to get away from it.
Yes.
Like it's still a first experience. And if even if you've been in multiple toxic relationships, like each relationship is a new experience.
Yes.
And so it's a first experience with that. And so having that and recognizing there was something off, you're still learning from this.
Yes.
And that by recognizing, oh yeah, this one was toxic because of this, and this is toxic because of this, you're picking up on what that initial instinct was, that initial intuition.
So good. I keep hearing, and we just did an episode about self-compassion. I keep thinking that this requires a lot of self-compassion.
Yeah.
And you could go down the rabbit hole of negativity and, should've, would've's, could've's, but what does that produce?
Right.
Really nothing, right? Yeah. Shame, guilt, blame. But instead of saying oh, wait a minute, there's a reason, it makes sense, and you learned something, you know, and recognize that. I mean, I love that because I keep thinking of that, what you said earlier, those little drops. That's what that feels like. It's just little drops of saying, you know what, I did feel something. Yeah. And there was a reason I did it, or I didn't, or I stayed in, or I left. I just think understanding that is so beneficial to us. And instead of going right to the negative, what I should have done or could have, or I should have left sooner, you did. And here we are. And what can we learn from it?
Well, and I think there's this thing too, that if you think about the people that would talk to you like that, right? Like they would talk to you about, you should have, or you could have, or why didn't you leave, or why didn't you this? and you start to feel that shame, you don't really want to talk to them about this experience anymore. I think that goes along the same with ourselves.
That's true.
Right? Is that if we start to do that to ourselves, it's going to be really hard to sit in those feelings because you feel judged and attacked all the time. And so to practice that, like, you know, I didn't know what I was doing. I felt something there. When did I feel that? What was going on? And try to have it be as neutral as possible with just curiosity.
Oh, that's such a good thought, Lindsay, is we wouldn't tell people something if we just keep getting bombarded with negativity, right? We're like, oh no, you're not safe. No, thank you. Right? Same principle applies to ourselves. Like if that's how we're responding to our own feelings, well then no, thank you. I can't sit with that. I can't explore that because it's just too painful.
Yeah.
It's so good. We are our own worst critics.
Yeah.
And learning that self-talk, self-compassion, curiosity, it is huge. And it's something that is not easy to do. And I really believe that it can be life-changing if we figure out how to do that, right? And again, I always just say curious compassion. If we can look at things with curiosity and have some compassion, boy, we can change the way that we engage with ourselves, right? Yeah. And it's often, you know, again, it's not necessarily what happened to us, but it's the way we think about what happened to us, right? It's our mindset around the situation.
Yeah.
And that's where the power can come, or we can take away our power.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that, so many good thoughts. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you feel like is really important that I didn't ask you?
I don't think so. I think we covered quite a bit in this one.
I agree. I think we did as well. I just want to recap a couple of things that feel really important. I love the idea of being willing to sit with it. Just being willing to slow down, right? Immediately this question was, what can I do? Like, what are these action steps? And you're saying, just back up, take a break, just sit with it.
Like, how would you sit with it with a friend?
Totally.
Right? Like a really good friend. And if somebody was telling you that, then what would you do?
Yep.
It's not an attack. It's just, what do they need? They just need you to sit next to them.
And being willing to sit with somebody when they're in pain is the most healing thing, right? And I think of that for myself when I've had somebody that has just been willing to sit and listen, and they're not trying to like solve or rush me through, just like witnessing what's going on. Gosh, it is like the most compassionate, kind thing you can do.
Powerful.
Yes, it's powerful. Absolutely. So I love that. I love the idea of the little wins. You know, find the little wins. I loved the idea of the packing the bag for the gym and saying, you know, you didn't make it to the gym, but you packed the bag. Okay, you packed the bag. Let's celebrate that win. Or you got out the door. You didn't quite make it there, but like celebrate those steps, not just the end goal, but the steps to get there, right? Yeah. It's really easy to have the story at the end of the day and say, let's tie the bow, but we need to celebrate the little wins along the way. I love that. The other thing that I think was really great was understanding when we're getting healthier after a toxic relationship is when we can start having boundaries, when we can start recognizing what our needs are and honoring those needs. That creates self-trust, self-worth, right? When we can see that. So I remember that feeling when you were saying, trust yourself. You know, whether you've been in a toxic relationship or not, I think sometimes it's hard to trust ourselves. And you talked about why, right? We've had lots of culture, values told this is what it should be or what you should think, but really getting back to know what works for me, what feels right to me, and honoring that, right? And the last piece was intuition, was saying, you know, intuition's there for a reason. And to recognize it, to honor it. And if we didn't, to not beat ourselves up about it, but recognize that it was there at some point. And to be willing to say, thank you for that. And as opposed to, I'm so wrong, I didn't do the thing, but to give ourselves compassion. I'm hearing that throughout this whole interview is just compassion, compassion, compassion. Greater
Absolutely.
Compassion.
Yeah.
Well, Lindsay, I really appreciate you being here today and your insights. You are full of wisdom. And you know what? You just have this very calm, quiet wisdom about you that is so grounding. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. You know, I think a reminder is that when somebody has left a toxic relationship, it's incredibly brave. And to recognize that, like leaving is incredibly brave. Recognizing and then leaving is incredibly brave. And to be able to sit with that and to heal. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes energy, and it takes kind compassion. And I would hope that after this episode, you'd be willing to just look at that with kindness and curious compassion. That word, again, I think that phrase, curious compassion, is so valid. Lindsay, thanks again for your insights. And thank you, listeners, for being here. I hope this episode was helpful. If it was, please share it with a friend, share it with those that you think would benefit from it. And rate and review is always helpful to help us grow and to spread these messages. And until next time, take care.